It's time for the sandbox news. This week we have new clothing, video settings, lighting changes, updates to the Minecraft Voxel world game, new customization, and a battle pass. There's a major upcoming refactor, which will break every sandbox game. A lot of obsolete stuff has been removed, and there's updates to Hammer Editor. Now before we get into it, I'm trying to reach 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. So make sure you're subscribed. I do sandbox news every single Friday. There's new clothing for the sandbox man. Here we can see there's a new jacket and jeans. If we go into the customization menu, the lighting looks a little broken right now. So previously we only had a suit jacket and this placeholder dress. I added this red jacket to my menu manually. Now we have a long sleeved jacket. There's also a new jeans. So previously we only had smart trousers and no pants. But now we have this blue jeans. There's also new graphic settings in the menu here. Now we can disable water ripples and we can change the resolution scale. So if I turn this all the way down to 20, you'll notice the game looks pixelated now. This looks like a Minecraft texture. It doesn't affect the UI, only the world. If I turn it back up, we can see it's HD. Here's it off, it's like a Minecraft texture, and here's it on again. That's so interesting. There's also a reflection setting here. So if I turn this off, it'll turn off all of the high quality reflections. We can see on the left here, this material is using a cube map for very cheap reflections, but on the right, it's using high quality reflections, which get turned off. I believe this should also work with the water, so if I turn it off, it looks like, at least for now, this reflection setting does not affect water. I don't know if that'll change in the future. The sandbox game mode is actually broken right now, so I'm in unicycle frenzy here, and it looks like the unicycle character does not interact with the water at all. However, if I was to crash into the wall and die, we can see there's some ripples there. This setting in the menu here turns that off. In the future, we'll see AMD FidelityFX Super Resolution added to this menu. If you don't know what that is, I believe it's an AI upscaler thing that boosts your frame rates. I'll leave some videos about it in the description, but here we can see there's actually a preview right here. We can see FidelityFX Super Resolution off. So on the left here, we can see this is what the game looks like right now. Like, it's all pixelated. There's not even any color, and we're only getting 5 frames per second. But once you turn it on, it enriches the detail. You can see lens flares, full color, and we're getting so many FPS that the frame rate counter goes off the screen. That's crazy. That's insane. This changes Sandbox forever. If you'd like to learn more about AMD FidelityFX, I've left some links in the description. There's new updates to the Minecraft style game. Here we can see there's world generation now and dynamic chunk loading. So I believe they have an option for infinite world generation and also limited sized worlds. Here we can see a little preview of the Minecraft style world generation. Now there's actually 2 separate Voxel Minecraft style games that are being worked on here. The first one is a Voxel style base. So this will feature procedural worlds with different biomes, breakable and placeable blocks, functioning water blocks, and an example pixel shader if you want to have low resolution textures. This is just going to be a generic base without any real gameplay. I'm very excited to see what people make using this. Maybe we'll see some games like Castle Miner Z in Sandbox. That's insane, it's Minecraft with guns. Just imagine. The other thing is Core Wars. We don't know much detail about this yet. They've been focusing on making the systems for all these voxel blocks first, and then they're going to be making Core Wars, which I believe is roughly inspired by Minecraft Bed Wars. And it's going to be using handmade maps, so not randomly generated terrain. There's some new changes to how lighting works. Now, I don't know exactly what any of this stuff means. We can see up our shader ABI document changes and rename elements that are enum to better clarify. Another example is view model shadows on mixed shadows. And then we can see there's a praying hands. So maybe they found this in the monastery. I'm definitely not a graphics programmer, so I don't really understand most of the stuff. The developer shared a screenshot of it. Now, I don't exactly know what's being shown off here, but it looks very interesting either way. I have a confession to make. I was wrong. It turns out a couple of weeks ago, the optimized tree foliage shader was actually added to the game. However, it was only the optimization. There's no tree swaying yet. I think this was a week or two ago. I looked in the material editor for foliage, and it's not here. And that's because it's actually marked as a dev shader for some reason. So we can see foliage here. Under foliage, there's a to-do button here. So I imagine in the future, this could allow for leaves to sway in the wind. Right now though, this is just a more optimized foliage shader if you're trying to make some leaves. There's a new battle pass that's been added, the trail pass. So this is just for the unicycle game. However, if you wanted to take the code and copy paste it, you definitely could. This is still an early work in progress, and we can see the menu here is actually glitched out a little. I don't think this is fully implemented yet. Here we can see an XP bar. So I have 5 XP right now. I think we gain XP through playtime, completing achievements, and maybe for completing the map. And we can use this XP to unlock these unique cosmetic items. Now, it doesn't look like any of these cosmetics are actually unique and unlockable yet. They're all in by default. This is still an early work in progress. So we'll have to check back in the future and see how it's coming along. Minigolf is also getting some customization. If I press Q, it looks like this is a very early work in progress. So there's a hat that goes on my mini golf ball. Interesting. Looks like there's one test hat. And it looks like we can change the trails. I imagine these are the same trails from Unicycle Frenzy, but it looks like this doesn't actually work yet. So there's not even a trail here. This is such an early work in progress, so I would almost be surprised if this was functional. You can tell just by looking at this menu here, they just started working on this. Hey, I got a hole-in-one. There's an incoming refactor. This is a change to how physics and scene objects work in the API. Now, we don't know exactly what it's going to be yet, but it's going to completely break every single sandbox game. This is a good thing though. It's improving the game. Stuff like this wouldn't be possible if Sandbox was open to the public. If something like this happened while 40,000 people were playing the game, it would just be a complete outrage, and everyone would stop playing Sandbox. So stuff like this is really good to see, and it means they're actually improving the engine. It's great. A lot of obsolete things have been removed. There were a bunch of obsolete commands that didn't do anything, like God and Give. It doesn't even make sense that those commands would be a thing, because Sandbox is a game engine, it's not a specific game. Not every single game in Sandbox is going to have God mode or give items. Those kinds of things would be implemented at the game level, not at the engine level. A couple other things that were removed include VScript. Sandbox has C#, and VScript didn't do anything at all. It was just extra leftover code. There were a bunch of legacy entities in Hammer, so I think most of those have been removed. If I look through the entity list here, yeah, it looks like almost all the old entities have been removed. All of them have been removed, actually, which is good. It looks like I'm only seeing entities that I know work, and entities from custom games that I have installed, like TTT and RTS. I'm glad to see those removed. The only thing those extra entities were doing was confusing mappers. There were some old legacy Source 1 importers which have been removed. They didn't work properly. Some old obsolete tools were also removed, such as the old legacy workshop uploader, the old model editor, which didn't work, and a basic text editor, which I'm not sure if that really did anything. It's really nice to see all this stuff being improved. There are some new updates to Hammer, including updates to the fast texture tool. So previously we couldn't zoom in or pan. How do you pan? Right click. So if you wanted to do some precision fast texturing, you couldn't, because you couldn't zoom in. The only thing that you could do was expand the window. You couldn't zoom in all the way to get the fine details. Ideally, your material is made on the grid though, so everything snaps very easily. You can see here, it's all perfectly aligned. Here we can see a video from the developers. I didn't want to make a garbage model for this, but tile meshes now get baked when you're exporting models. Here we can see, in this case, the tile mesh for this gutter here was converted into a model. The final major update to Hammer is the maps problem window here. This was useful for finding issues in the maps. It's actually telling me that these objects are off the grid. I don't think that's really a big issue. So previously this was only a floating window and you couldn't dock it anywhere. Now we can see I can drag it onto here, and now it's next to my outliner. We can see here there's an error, missing entity class func breakable, go to error. It's not actually taking me to the error. It's taking me to these errors, but it's not taking me to this error. I wonder why that is. I can open up entity report. Now, entity report isn't a dockable window yet. I think it'd be really cool to see this be dockable. If I look through here, I should be able to find func breakable. Aha. Here we can see inside this default prefab, this is a func breakable entity which doesn't work anymore. So I guess they should probably fix this prefab and maybe remake func breakable, but in C#. Well, you're up to date with all the sandbox news. Subscribe and come back next week for more.